Now let's move on to the next session on the theme of regenerative water island. This session is sponsored by Tokyo Tatemono. The panelists for this session are Mr. Shohei Okudera, speaking on behalf of Mr. Maeda. He is Human Resources IT System Manager. Ms. Miki Omori, Nocnum CEO. Mr. Yota Takakura, INNOQUA CEO. And the moderator of this session will be Mr. Yukihiro Maru, Livaness Group CEO.
はい、皆さんこんにちは。
Well, how do you do, everybody? How do you feel about Sushi Tech? What's your impression? It's like a festival. It's Sushi Tech, but there's no sushi served. Well, perhaps it'll be delivered later. Now, we have an interesting presentation in regard to the world's water. And the sponsor is Tokyo Tatemono. So first of all, we have a few words from a person from Tokyo Tatemono. So please come forward to the stage. As introduced, I look big because everybody's seated, but I come from Tokyo Tatemono. My name is Taniguchi, and I'd like to request for your best regards. In regard to why our company is organizing this session with superstars, I'd like to talk about our company. Our company was established in 1896 in the Yaesu, Nihonbashi, and Kyobashi area. And so we decided to name our company YNK after Yaesu, Nihonbashi, and Kyobashi. And we are the oldest real estate company here in Japan. And as mentioned, YNK, you may be wondering where this is. And recently in a television series, there is a program about this area, and we have the Yaesu area, which is around Tokyo Station, and we have the immediate surrounding area, and Marunouchi was near the Edo Castle moat, and in this area was an area where the town people and merchants lived, as well as craftsmen. In such a location, we have these three redevelopment projects. We have cooperation of the local population, and in regard to why we are dealing with the subject of water, as you can see on the left-hand side, you can see the Yaesu first block. There is a project, and as you can see some water, and we're doing a redevelopment in this area. We build buildings, and circulation of water is very important for buildings, and what happens to the wastewater is very important for people who construct buildings. And so therefore, we have decided to focus on the subject of water in this session. We are dealing with the subject of regeneration. This is a key word, and you may be wondering why that's the case, but last year in Regenerative City, Tokyo, there was a conference, and our company announced the concept of Regenerative City, Tokyo. We wanted to look at the well-being of people, society, and the world. And for multi-stakeholders, we wanted to provide multi-dimensional values. We have a major purpose, and so we are co-creating with Maru-san and others. And in regard to the concept of regeneration to be promoted widely, we need to, first of all, educate and understand what regeneration is about, connect that to innovation, and then have implementation in society, provide the places for that to take place, and then disseminate information about this. And with this cycle, it'll be possible to have this concept of a regenerative city, Tokyo. We can realize this. major concept. And so we hope that Maru-san will be able to convey the message that we wish to convey. Now we'd like to ask Mr. Maru to take over. Now that's a very difficult concept that you talked about. Thank you. In regard to regenerative, have you ever heard the word before? It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. We're talking about regenerative water island, and I will be acting as the moderator. For a long period of time, I've been carrying out research and development in universities, especially in the area of agriculture, and also research on water. And I have started a listed company, and there's a lot of startup companies that I introduced to the world. And when it comes to regenerative water island, when I heard about the theme, I thought about 3 interesting companies to introduce here. And in regard to what they'll talk about, we haven't decided at all. I'm sorry about that. I'd like to apologize to Tokyo Tatemono, but we'd like to talk freely about water and water-related aspects. I'd like to talk about the global water situation, and we have 3 speakers. And so, leaving aside what I would like to talk about, we would like you to introduce yourselves and then talk about how water is in terms of importance to your companies. Now, first of all, we'd like to request for your best regards. And starting from this side of the stage, we'll start with this. We'd like to have WOTA's presentation. Best of regards. How do you do? It seems like it's not in the right order. May I stand up? Yes, please. Please. Well, you're quite tall, aren't you? Yes. Well, I'd like to speak forcefully, so I'd like to stand up. Best of regards. I am one of the founders of WOTA, and we're doing waterworks. I'd like to request for your best regards. My name is Da, and I'd like to talk about what kind of issues surround water and the major issues. In regard to our company, our purpose is to structurize water issues and solve them. We're not just looking at local water issues. We're looking at a variety of different water problems. So we want to provide structure to them and solve those problems. So we want to offer solutions and disseminate this to the world. In regard to the issues surrounding water, we are situated in Japan. We have abundance of water, so there are very few water problems. But if we look at this from a global perspective, then as you can see on the left-hand side, then there is a gap between the demand and supply of water. We're seeing an increase in the populations and more affluence, but at the same, we see a tremendous increase of the population. But when it comes to the water supply, has the supply kept up with the demand? Well, there are no solutions to this yet. And in 2030, there is going to be over 40% of the world population that will face a water shortage. And in industrialized nations such as Japan, there had been a deficit in management of water. And we are also seeing a decrease in the populations. And so there are issues. And between supply and demand, there's also the situation of the fiscal budgets available. And when we look at water issues, we need to look at the systems of water supply and sewage water. And we need to look at the supply of water. And we have to deal with the situation of water supply and sewage water. And where there is the centralized approach that is done in large scale, but there's also a distributed autonomous approach where on-site treatment of water can be carried out. With that combination, we believe that the problems of Earth water supply can be resolved. Now, this is going to take a lot of time, so I'll try and speed up my pace. But what important thing is that there's the shift of the construction industry to the manufacturing industry. Now, when we look at the water supply and then the sewage water, we need land, we need to negotiate with the local populations, and there's the need of waters, and it may take 10 years to solve these issues. And we need to be able to immediately provide the water that is required. And when there's water is produced in the factories, then it needs to be provided immediately to where it is needed.
And once the demand is gone, then the takeaway, the supply, and so that kind of idea. That implicates a shift from the model that is common in the construction industry to the manufacturing industry. So with the help of DX and sensor technologies and also working with the various partners, including the host, the living nest, etc. So the circulation of water, that's the idea behind our product, and that's they're quite they're useful, especially at the time of disaster. So we want to build the environment where the people do not have to suffer. So with the series of products, the Noto Peninsula earthquake is the one of the recent examples. So the cutting of the water supply that struck the 89% of the residents. So we came into the scene and help out. So going forward, well, we put in place the preparedness for the national disaster level, the incidents, and the infrastructure is needed for that. And also we started focusing on the residential systems so that the people can live without the relying on the water, public water and sewage systems. So that's all. Thank you very much. Well, so may I ask a question? Well, having listened to the presentation, if we talk about water, water takes various shapes, and fresh water versus seawater, or the water is used for various purposes, for drinking, or the toilet sewage, or the industrial purposes like semiconductor plant. And so the structuralizing the water's approach is quite interesting to me in that sense. And so you are now rolling out various businesses, and mainly on the side of the clean water. So I'm interested in the reason why you decided to start from that side, cleaner side of the water. Well, maybe even after the presentation, I wonder if I'm allowed to keep talking. But anyway, in that sense, so that was really the outstanding issue and the challenges, especially in the disaster-struck area. The water supply truck comes, but drinking water is actually the one of the easiest problems to solve. But the living water for showers and baths, etc., that requires the larger volume of water, and the recycled water solution doesn't really work that well. So yeah, so the 6,900 billion cubic meters water demand. How much of it is for living purposes? In that case, well, let's say, so 200 liters per household, 200 to 250, but maybe per person 100 to 108, or so that's for living water, and then, well, mainly for that's followed by the toilet, and then drinking water. And drinking water it requires just about 4 liters. So how to secure water, it's one, but the how to discharge is another. Well, imagine the building, like a Tokyo Tatemono's product. Well, the building houses lots of people, and people drink water, go to toilet, and so inside the building, I wonder, well, let's say we are in the spaceship. How about circulating water inside the building? Is it technically possible? There are some buildings who are already plasticing like that. Well, in a sustainable manner. Let's say they store 10-liter water and circulate. Well, of course, you need to top up, but let it circulate throughout the building for various purposes. Is it possible? Well, legally and technically it's possible. Why people don't do that then? Well, one is packaged technologies is non-existent. That's not available. Well, it's not available. Why don't you make it? Let's say 100% recycling, or if you take shower, then the shower wastewater goes somewhere else to be recycled. And why you don't make a system like that? Well, maybe because of the cost. Is it really? Is it only the cost issue? Are you really? Well, from the cost perspective, imagine you need to maintain the water supply and sewage system versus maintaining that circulation system. Well, for that building, well, once you lay the pipe to bring the public water supply in, well, let's say Roppongi Hills, well, from the disaster prevention or disaster countermeasure sake, they put in place the water circulation system. But other than that, well, the many of the big cities already have the infrastructures, existing infrastructures in place. So it's easier and cheaper just to put the building on top and utilize what is already. Well, being in Tokyo, we already have the very good established water supply system and sewage systems, but so easier to use it. But in the case of the water shortage because of the disaster, for example, then well, there is a system available. But Southeast Asia or the place where there's the chronic water shortage, then they put the building on the ground and also the regeneration system of the water. Well, is it possible then? If it's possible, then why not do it together? Yeah, I can bet on it. So, yeah, what you do is good, but too small though. So you have to take on something epic, so the attractive enough for. So the more buildings you have, the better you protect the water. So how about building a city like that? Oh, is it just a dream and not realistic or possible? It is possible if you ask me if it's possible or not. Well, for us, well, the upper water purification facility that serve the X number of households. Well, there were no technologies to support the small cluster of households. So if you build the module and start small, and then maybe, so the shift to manufacturing industry model, it's interesting. It used to be more like a infrastructure that supplies or cater to the mass, but let's say you build 10 modules, 10 of your modules, and then 100 of your modules. And so if the building company comes to you and asks for your product, then you can accelerate the solution. So, well, yeah, you really have to change the the direction in your presentation to talk about something big. So that was too small, maybe for the future. But believe me, it's quite important. So the infrastructure model versus manufacturing industry model, they're completely different, but they make a shift to the manufacturing style. That's quite important and interesting. So imagine in the event of disaster, you can bring in products from outside. So on day one after the big earthquake, the people were able to take shower. That was really something no one did achieve before. So yeah, the shower. A big round of applause. Yes, nice to have shower on the day one. Anyway, so he survived the first round of torture, and who's the second victim? So Nocnum is the second company, and so you're too scared walking in the dark side of the street at night. So tell me the reason why, and also tell us who you are and what you do. Yes, thank you very much. Nice to meet you all.
We are Nocnum. I'd like to request your best regards. And we have heard about the issues by WOTA. And we have some similar materials in my presentation, so I'll skip them as we move forward. We are looking at the use of the power of people and technology to solve the problems of water and hygiene for the earth and for humankind. What we are dealing with is the issues of water. This is a wide-ranging issue, and there's the issue of wastewater, and we want to solve the world's problems surrounding water, but there are techniques surrounding septic tanks that have a lot of issues, and so we're trying to deal with the world's issues, and especially the issues surrounding Japan. And there was talk about distributed processing and centralized processing. And we look at distributed processing in some areas. And when it comes, there's often septic tanks that are found in the top of buildings as tanks. But what we're looking at something like this, and we have two manholes in the left-hand side. And in rural areas, you often see this type of approach for distributed wastewater treatment. This is found in parking lots and so on. And what's inside is something like what you see on the right-hand side. It's something about this size. It's like this size. This is the type of tank. And for sewage water treatment, there are cases where water is being treated and recirculated, and all cleansing of wastewater can be carried out in a package like this. And this can flow to the waters after recirculation. Yes, the cleansing of water can be carried out here inside, and then it can be passed on. And when it comes to sewage water, it may be that the sewage water may become much more cleaner, and better systems are often said to be used in sewage water. But the technology is the same as the sewage water processing plants, and this can be used as a technology if it's properly maintained. And when it comes to septic tanks and how many people are using it, it's about 12% of the entire population that is using septic tanks. And as already mentioned, in sewage processing, there's 2,200 locations, out of which 2,000 are those that are dated. And recently, there have been about 7% of the total that will last 50-some years. And after 10 years, then this will mean that it'll be 40%. And so we have to change the approach taken for sewage water. Otherwise, there's going to be more accidents, fatalities, and the destruction of infrastructure. And the water supply is being provided at a deficit. And so therefore, in regard to the situation of sewage water, we must present doubts to society about the present way things are done. And since the Noto Prefecture earthquake, there's a limited population in that area, and yet there was issues about water. So it's difficult to replace the tanks with the water supply tanks. And so when it comes to the sewer supply, there are many risks, and the national government has started to think about what to do about this. But to make a switch to septic tanks, the biggest problem is that it's operating for 24 hours. But when it comes to septic tanks, then this is only checked for once or 3 times a year. And even the most frequently maintained ones are only inspected once every 2 weeks, and the reports are made in paper. And so therefore, this has not been digitized, and there are issues. So there had been many cases where things could have been done with the sewage treatment plants, but there's much concern about what is going to happen. And so therefore, we are trying to provide IoT sensors for septic tanks. But it's not enough to install the sensors, because the sensors will get stained. And so therefore, what can be done to cleanse the sensor while continuing to use them over a period of time? Perhaps the abnormal values can be monitored. And if there's an offset of the numbers happen, perhaps it would be possible to calculate what the difference is. And so therefore, through analysis, it'll be possible to technically solve the problems involved. And there are some areas that we can't really show, but this is how the sensor data can be observed. And we were established in 2022, and now it's 2025, and finally this year, we've been able to launch our product and sell them. And so if you're interested in the use of septic tanks, we hope that you can contact us. Will there be a 50% discount? Well, there's much cooperation that you could have with WOTA. Yes, there's a great deal that we can cooperate. And we also have worked with septic tanks, but we would like to learn. I'll take advantage of septic tanks. So this kind of tank could be used. And this is quite fantastic. So when it comes to this kind of technique, it's quite a manual technology. And how many of you are familiar with septic tanks? Well, people who live in rural areas may be familiar, but that's interesting. So when it comes to septic tanks, have you ever looked into this? Well, I can understand what it's about, and it's quite close to lighting. We are checking at living creatures and whether they are alive or not, but I can understand what. Can you tell what the situation of septic tanks are? Well, with a sensor installed, it will be possible to see the situation of turbidity and whether there is foaming that is taking place or what is happening with the water levels. And there are many different things that a veteran monitor can observe. So it's for craftsmen. over 60% of the people who are maintaining these tanks are over the age of 50, so that's also an issue. Yes, in the case of WOTA or Nocnum, within people's lives, there is recirculation, unlike normal infrastructure, and it'll be possible to take advantage of existing technology for the regeneration of water. We looked at very micro elements, but we are dealing with the subject of water on the earth. And so in order to protect that, what are the technologies that should be applied needs to be looked at. And so we would like to hear from INNOQUA. Yes. Thank you. When it comes to water, water is not just for the benefit of people. Besides humans, there are millions or tens of millions of other living creatures, and we have to think on their behalf. And when we look at the sea, the situation is quite dire. For example, in the case of Japan, there is these forests of seaweeds that you may not have seen, but these exist, and there's a tremendous decline. And this relates to humans tremendously. And there's various types of marine life. But if these forests are then disappearing, this is going to impact our food supply.
So yes, that's a part of the Japanese culture. So the seafood really matters, and so the desertification of the shore is going on. So the sushi would be the food of our imagination sooner or later, so I won't be able to eat. And also, the coral is one of the victims. So 25% of the creatures live in the coral reef. So the coral is playing a vital role in the ecosystem. But by 2040, the 90% of the coral will die out, and some of the countries will become underwater. So if the coral dies out, so well, the INNOQUA, well, just like the Liver Nest, we create wisdom and knowledge, and that's our product. So the INNOQUA, the company name, is coined by combining the innovate and the aquarium, and so that's our Chief Aquarium Officer. This is probably the word first, and so imagine the 35 years the loan he took out to build the aquarium, and so he basically dedicated the whole life. So we wanted to utilize his knowledge and also himself, and so we multiply the knowledge and wisdom of the multiple people like this. We dedicate ourselves for the environment. So we are the collection of people who love animals and the creatures, and so we bring ourselves together for the business. And imagine you multiply the technology you have with mangrove, for example, that could create the various potential of a business. So let's say we build the aquarium, and that can work as a testing bed for your technology. So that's the idea of many of our products. So for example, Shiseido, well, they have the sunscreen. They want to make it better for environment. So we test the various ingredients. So the coral died in this tank, but they survived in other tanks, and which means that those ingredients are better for coral, better for, and also the purpose of the byproduct of the steel refining, for example, that can be used for the grounding coral. So we have started thinking about the way to utilize technology that was only for human, but now for other creatures. So INNOQUA as always, they focus on the aquatic creature, and that what you want to protect? Or, well, of course, the water is the theme. Well, if the seawater is soiled, then and all the way around comes back to us, like the cloud, mountain, river, and then for our the water tap in our house. So the from the regeneration perspective, the ocean is quite important. So how many of you know how much pollution is going on in water? Well, in Seto Inland Sea, recently, we go down to the field a lot, and well, outside the lab, we realize, so there are the creatures living in such a place, and so that's also surprising. But well, the seawater creates cloud, and then the cloud gives rain, and well, actually the seaweed, actually, the ingredients contributes to the generation of cloud. So if we have less seaweed, then we will have less cloud, less rain. So not many people have realized that. So purification or cleansing of water, that's not just about the houses, rivers, but if we include the ocean in our perspective, well, sometimes we tend to separate pure water versus marine water, but I think we need to focus more on seawater as well. So the turning seawater into the shower water, for example, from marine salty water to fresh water, for example. Well, starting with the fresh water, right? Well, seawater, turning seawater into fresh water, it takes a lot of energy, but well, actually, wastewater turning into the fresh water, clean water, well, actually, the level of energy required is 1/3 of the former. So the seawater, it's probably the seed water, the very starting point could be the way. But how about INNOQUA or Nocnum? Yeah, actually, we often go to Seto Inland Sea for our POC, and Seto Inland Sea is the place where the wastewater standard is very stringent. So actually, denutrification is really the problem there. So they deliberately include some impurities in the wastewater before discharging. So we are thinking about using the septic tanks to control that aspect. So this area, we need to have the completely clean water, for example, into the Biwa Lake in Shiga Prefecture, but the Seto Inland Sea, well, we should keep the some of the substances like nitrogen, etc., left in the water before discharge. Yeah, I heard of it. Ariake. You know the seaweed. Well, when I went to Saga Prefecture for seaweed, but actually they deliberately discharge the dirtier water, and that works as the nutrient for the seaweed. Well, that's disappetizing, but anyway, if we make the water too clean, then discharge water too clean, then the seaweed won't grow. So yes, the Kyoto University professors studied about the discharge water, so the national project on that. So maybe working together with local fishermen, we control the pollutant level in the discharge water. Probably the dirtier water you provide, and that works as the fertilizer for the seaweed. So maybe the residents get some discount when buying. So do you remember the theme? We only have 5 minutes left. Yeah, regeneration is the theme. So regenerative water city, Takakura-san. Remember, so that's the theme. So let's go back to the original subject, the town and city development. So what kind of technology helps us? Well, the more town we make, the better the Earth's water is protected. So that's the world I want to achieve. So I would like the Tokyo Tatemono to bring home the idea for better city development. So one idea per speaker. Okay, so regeneration, they give the life again to the whatever. So I think it's really important. So plankton or the tiny crab that's eaten by fish, and then turned into the feces of the aquatic animal, and then that's eaten by the other animals, and so that's really what the regenerative is all about. So how we can create a system for circulation. So septic tank, what interested me was, so you take out the impurities from the wastewater. I wonder if there is any use for that. So I think you shouldn't stop the circulation of water or resources. So you have to keep on running water, and they have to keep on moving. Otherwise, it gets the bad if it stays. So I think it's an important point. So thank you very much. How about you, Omori-san?
As mentioned, to clean water means to collect organic elements, but we're looking at eliminating the moisture, and we are normally incinerating what remains, and that takes advantage of thermal power. But of course, there's the issue of circulation there. But when we think about recirculation or purification, WOTA is making efforts about taking advantage of the water on behalf of humans. This is very important for human life, but in our case, we are looking at the water taken from the sea to be used, and then to recirculate that into the environment so that we can realize regeneration. But in regard to how that can be realized, it's quite difficult. Means that we need to rebuild the infrastructure or to create a new form of infrastructure. And in order to do that, we need the mentality of people. For example, in regard to toilet water to be recirculated, there are people who resist that, or there are people who are not interested in hearing about seaweed made from dirty water. And so therefore, it's necessary to gradually change the mentality of people. That's something that I've been thinking about recently, but that's going to become necessary. Thank you very much. Now, final comments? Between WOTA and Ms. Omori, in the distributed infrastructure to be more widely used, we're looking at water pipes and sewage pipes, and there is a lot of piping that is used, and that can be gradually eliminated so that it'll be possible for the land to gradually return to its original state. And there's Tokyo that can be considered as a place for production of water, and in regard to redefinition of what is taking place, I thought that that is something that needs to be pursued. Thank you. Well, today we've dealt with the subject of regenerative water island, and we have heard from 3 startup companies. Finally, I'd like to mention that in recirculation or regeneration of water, Japan is a water island, and we have a large population that continues to use clean water, and this is quite rare in the world. Perhaps this kind of technology about what can be done with the changes in infrastructure and what can be done in Japan, we should respect each element and perhaps bring this technology to the world. Then there would be greater regeneration of the world that would take place. And if we talk about what's taking place in Japan, then there are the constructors of piping or sewers that may get angry. But if we have technical developments and have technologies that can be offered to different countries depending on what the circumstances are, so that our regenerative water island startups can introduce a variety of different technologies to other countries, and depending on which country it is, there may be a certain distributed approach that is taken in a certain nation that could take advantage of septic tanks or so on, depending on their circumstances. That's my impression. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your participation.